It was a cold soul night, the kind that wrapped loneliness around a man's heart like a silent chain. Ju-won, a billionaire known for his ruthless business tactics and endless parties, sat in the dim corner of his private club, surrounded by the hollow laughter of guests he barely knew. His heart was a battlefield, worn out by success, crushed by betrayal, and numbed by liquor. His glass of whiskey trembled slightly as he raised it to his lips. "To emptiness," he whispered, forcing a smile that never reached his eyes. Across the hall, a soft voice broke through the dull hum of music. It was Olivia, a young Kenyan waitress newly hired for the event. She moved with quiet grace, her black hair tucked neatly beneath her cap, her deep brown eyes holding both innocence and courage. Unlike the others who served him with rehearsed smiles, she carried sincerity in her every gesture. When their eyes met for the first time, Ju-won felt something strange, a calmness he hadn't known in years. She bowed politely, offering him a drink with trembling hands. "You seem sad, sir," she said softly, her accent gentle and musical. Ju-won blinked, surprised. No one dared to say that to him. He studied her face, the simplicity, the purity, and for the first time in a long while he wanted to feel something real. He leaned closer, his breath heavy with alcohol. "Do you believe a kiss can heal loneliness?" he asked, half laughing, half pleading. Olivia froze, her heart racing. She had never kissed anyone before. Her faith and upbringing guarded her heart fiercely. But in that moment, she didn't see a billionaire. She saw a broken man drowning in silence. I don't know, sir," she whispered. Ju-won set down his glass and looked at her with raw honesty. "Then prove it to me," he said, his voice trembling. "Just once. A kiss. And I'll believe there's still warmth left in this world." The music slowed. The lights dimmed. Around them, the party blurred into the background. Olivia's breath quickened as she looked into his eyes, dark, lost, but yearning. Her hands shook as she reached up, gently touching his cheek. "You need peace, not pity," she murmured. And before she could think, she kissed him. It was soft, hesitant, but powerful. A single tear escaped Ju-won's eye as he closed it, feeling the warmth of her lips melt the cold fortress inside him. That kiss wasn't lust, it was life. It was forgiveness. It was the first real thing he had felt in years. When they pulled apart, Olivia stepped back, blushing deeply. "I should go," she whispered, but Ju-won caught her wrist gently. "Don't go. Not tonight. Just stay and talk to me. No champagne. No lies." They sat together outside under the soft glow of the moon. He listened to her stories of Kenya, her humble home, her dreams, her laughter. She listened to his confessions, the pain of success, the ache of solitude, the longing for redemption. As dawn approached, the city lights faded, but something new was born between them, something fragile yet beautiful. Ju-won found himself sober not from time, but from her presence. Her kindness was a mirror reflecting the man he had forgotten he could be. Before she left, he took her hand. "Olivia," he said softly, "you gave me something no money could buy, a reason to feel again." She smiled shyly. "Then promise me one thing," she said. "Don't look for love in the bottom of a glass anymore." And as she walked away, her figure glowing in the first light of morning, Ju-won knew his life had changed forever. That one innocent kiss had rewritten his heart. From that night on, he stopped drinking. He visited the small cafe where Olivia worked, always sitting by the window, always waiting. Not for another kiss, but for the peace her soul had planted in him. And in time, love grew not from desire but from healing. A billionaire and a waitress, bound not by luxury or status, but by the memory of one kiss that saved a heart from darkness. Weeks turned into months, and yet that night, that single trembling kiss, never left Ju-won's mind. It was as if Olivia's touch had carved a light into the darkness of his soul. He, the man who once ruled corporations and hearts with cold arrogance, now found himself waiting quietly at a small cafe every morning just to see her smile. He didn't come with luxury cars or bodyguards anymore. He came alone, in a simple coat, his eyes softer than the man the world once feared. Olivia always noticed him before he spoke. She would greet him politely, her lips curling into a shy smile. "Good morning, Mr. Ju-won." "Just Ju-won," he'd correct gently, his voice low but warm. "And today, maybe you could sit with me a while?" First, she refused. She knew his world was far from hers. He belonged to skyscrapers, private jets, and gala nights. She belonged to morning shifts and small dreams. But Ju-won's persistence wasn't loud. It was patient, kind, and real. One rainy afternoon, she finally joined him. The cafe was almost empty, the scent of roasted coffee and rain filling the air. Ju-won handed her a cup, his fingers brushing hers softly. "You're different from anyone I've ever met," he said. "Everyone around me wants what I have. You gave me what I didn't, peace." Olivia lowered her gaze, her heart pounding. "Maybe you just needed someone to listen." He smiled faintly. "No, I needed someone to care." That afternoon turned into many more. They talked about everything. Her life in Kenya, how she came to Korea for work, and his childhood filled with wealth but no warmth. He began showing up not as a billionaire, but as a man rediscovering how to love. And one evening, when the last rays of sunset melted across the Han River, he took her for a quiet walk. The city lights sparkled like fallen stars. "Olivia," he said, stopping by the railing. "I used to think money could buy happiness, but then I met you. You reminded me that love is the only thing that makes a man rich." Her eyes glistened. "Ju-won, I never wanted your wealth. I only wanted to see you happy." He reached for her hand. "Then let me make you happy too." Their fingers intertwined, warm against the night breeze. That simple gesture felt like a vow. From that day on, Ju-won began changing his world for her. He opened a foundation in her name, the Olivia Hope Foundation, to support young women from Africa who wanted to study and work in Korea. Olivia was touched beyond words. "Why would you name it after me?" she asked one day, tears shining in her eyes. He smiled. "Because you taught me what hope feels like. You saved me, and I want your kindness to save others." Their love blossomed quietly, without the noise of fame or the flash of cameras. He would read poetry to her on nights when the city slept. She would cook him simple meals, laughing when he burned his fingers trying to help. One night, under the same stars that witnessed their first kiss, Ju-won whispered, "You were the light I didn't know I was searching for." Olivia touched his cheek gently. "And you were the heart I didn't know I could heal." He kissed her. This time, not out of loneliness, but out of love. A kiss that tasted like home, not whiskey. Together, they built not just a life, but a legacy. Ju-won became known not as the ruthless billionaire, but as the man whose empire was driven by compassion. And by his side, always, was Olivia, the waitress who kissed away his sorrow and gave him a reason to live again. And every year, on the night of their first meeting, they'd return to that same cafe. He'd look at her, smiling softly, and whisper, "One kiss changed everything." She would laugh, resting her head on his shoulder. And one heart kept believing. 2 years passed since the night Olivia's innocent kiss pulled Ju-won from the darkness. In those years, their bond grew deeper, steady, and unshakable. A love born not of attraction alone, but of healing and shared purpose. Ju-won was no longer the lonely billionaire drowning in champagne and noise. He became a quiet man of peace, a philanthropist whose heart led his empire. And by his side was Olivia, his light, his calm, his everything. But though their love felt eternal, Ju-won knew there was one thing left to do. It was a warm spring evening in Seoul, the air filled with the soft scent of cherry blossoms. Ju-won led Olivia through a hidden garden behind one of his new charity schools, a place he'd secretly designed with her in mind. Every flower had been chosen from her memories. White hibiscus from Kenya, cherry blossoms from Korea, and yellow roses, her favorite. As they walked hand in hand, Olivia laughed softly. "Ju-won, this place is beautiful. It feels like a dream." He turned to her with that familiar, gentle smile. "It's your dream, Olivia. I built it for you." Before she could respond, Soft music began to play from hidden speakers. A song she once told him reminded her of home. And then, to her surprise, the petals of the cherry trees began to fall, swirling like pink snow. Ju-won went down on one knee, her breath caught in her throat. "Olivia," he began, voice thick with emotion. "You found me when I was broken, and you gave me something no one else ever could, love that asked for nothing in return. You made me believe in life again. You made me human." He opened a small velvet box. Inside was a ring of white gold, set with a single, tear-shaped diamond surrounded by tiny emeralds. "Will you be my wife, my forever peace, my home?" Tears streamed down Olivia's cheeks. She could hardly speak. "Yes," she whispered, her voice trembling. 1,000 times yes. Ju-won rose and wrapped her in his arms, kissing her softly as petals drifted around them. For him, that kiss was a promise sealed in heaven. Their wedding was small but breathtaking, held in a glass chapel overlooking the Han River at sunset. There were no celebrities, no flashing cameras, just close friends, family, and the children from their foundation, who sang a song they'd written for the couple. Olivia walked down the aisle in a flowing white gown made from silk and lace, her hair wrapped with Kenyan beads that glimmered in the light. Ju-won stood at the altar in a simple black suit, his eyes shining with tears as she approached. When their hands met, the world seemed to stop. "I used to live for power," he said in his vows. "But now, I live for your smile." She smiled through her tears. "And I used to dream of survival. Now, I dream of forever with you." When the priest declared them husband and wife, Ju-won kissed her. A kiss that wasn't desperate or uncertain, but full of warmth, gratitude, and everlasting love. The crowd cheered, and for the first time, Olivia realized she wasn't the waitress anymore. She was his world. They built their home on the edge of Jeju Island, a quiet villa surrounded by gardens, sea wind, and sunsets that turned the sky gold. It wasn't just a house. It was their sanctuary. Olivia filled it with laughter and music. Ju-won filled it with flowers and handwritten notes tucked into her books and dresses. They would cook together, travel often, and spend long nights by the fire talking about their dreams. One evening, as they sat watching the waves crash softly below, Olivia turned to him and whispered, "Do you ever think about that night? The party? The kiss?" Ju-won smiled, pulling her close. "Every day. It reminds me how one moment of kindness can change a man's entire destiny." She smiled, resting her head on his chest. "And how love can start even from pain." He kissed her forehead gently. "And grow into forever." Together, they continued their mission, expanding the Olivia Hope Foundation across Africa and Asia. Thousands of young women found new opportunities, inspired by the love story that had changed not just 2 hearts, but countless lives. And every year, on the anniversary of their first meeting, Ju-won would bring Olivia to that same cafe where it all began. He would order her favorite drink, hold her hand, and say with a soft smile, "One kiss saved me, but your love made me live again." And Olivia would answer, her voice still sweet, "And I'll keep loving you until the stars forget to shine." 3 beautiful years had passed since Ju-won and Olivia exchanged vows under the sunset sky. Their home on Jeju Island had become more than a haven. It was a place where love lived and breathed, where laughter echoed through every corridor, and where every sunrise felt like a promise kept. The Olivia Hope Foundation was thriving. Together, they had opened schools and medical centers in Kenya, Tanzania, and South Korea, creating opportunities for children who once had none. But beyond the public admiration and success, it was their quiet love that held the deepest meaning. One calm evening, as the golden light of dusk poured into their home, Olivia stood by the balcony, her hand resting gently on her stomach. Ju-won walked in behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. She turned to him with a shy, teary smile. "Ju-won, I have something to tell you." He looked at her, puzzled but curious. "What is it, my love?" Her voice trembled with joy. "We're going to be parents." For a moment he froze, his breath catching in disbelief. Then slowly his eyes filled with tears. "Olivia, are you serious?" She nodded, laughter and tears mixing as he pulled her into his embrace. He held her tightly, his heart racing. "You've given me everything, and now a new life." They stood there, under the fading sunset, their silhouettes glowing against the horizon. A man once lost in loneliness, and the woman who gave him eternity. Months passed, filled with tender care and gentle excitement. Ju-won became fiercely protective, refusing to let Olivia lift even a single box. He would wake early to make her breakfast, though he often burned the eggs, and spend evenings reading baby books with her. When the day finally came, the air outside the hospital was heavy with rain. Ju-won paced the hallway, heart pounding harder than it ever had in board meetings or business deals. Then, at 3:12 a.m., a nurse emerged with a radiant smile. "Congratulations, sir. It's a baby boy." Ju-won's world stopped. His trembling hands reached for the small bundle wrapped in blue. The baby's skin was soft, his tiny fingers curling instinctively around Ju-won's thumb. Tears fell freely as Ju-won whispered, "My son, my little light." When he brought the baby to Olivia, who was resting weakly but smiling, she whispered, "He has your eyes." Ju-won shook his head gently. "No, he has your heart." They named him Eun-kwan, meaning grace and strength. Years later, their villa echoed with the laughter of a little boy running through the gardens. Ju-won would chase him barefoot while Olivia watched from the veranda, her heart full. At night, the three of them would sit by the fire. Ju-won would tell their son the story of how he met his mother. "Once, Daddy was very sad and very alone," he would begin softly. "But one night, an angel came, not with wings, but with kindness. She kissed me, and that kiss saved my life." Eun-kwan would giggle and run to Olivia, climbing into her lap. "Mommy, you're Daddy's angel." "Ali." Olivia would laugh, kissing her son's forehead. "And now you're our little miracle." As the years passed, their love continued to inspire millions. Together, they expanded their foundation, creating the House of Grace, a network of orphan homes that cared for abandoned children. Ju-won often said during his speeches, "Love isn't something you buy or chase. It's something you build, one act of kindness at a time." And every project they launched carried a trace of their story, from the Kiss of Hope scholarship in Kenya to the Olivia Gardens in Seoul, where young people could gather to learn and dream. They had become more than lovers. They were symbols of what love could heal. One quiet night, long after Eun-kwan had fallen asleep, Ju-won and Olivia sat outside watching the stars. The sea breeze danced softly through her hair. He took her hand and whispered, "You remember what you told me that first night? That I needed peace, not pity." She smiled. "Yes." He kissed her palm gently. "You gave me both, peace and love. And I'll spend every breath making sure you never forget how much you mean to me." Olivia leaned her head on his shoulder. "And I'll keep loving you until even time runs out." They sat in silence, wrapped in the glow of moonlight, their hands still intertwined, proof that a single kiss, born out of loneliness and compassion, could grow into a love powerful enough to change not just lives, but the world. And somewhere in the night breeze, the whisper of that first promise echoed softly. "One kiss saved me. Your love made me live again." Years melted gently into golden memories for Ju-won and Olivia, two souls once bound by pain and now by purpose. Their love had begun as a fragile spark in the dark, a kiss that was meant to comfort a broken heart, but it had grown into a fire bright enough to light generations. Together, they decided that love wasn't only meant to be felt, but shared. And so, they began building their legacy, not of wealth or power, but of compassion and beauty that carried their hearts into the world. They called it the Olivia Hope Empire, but not an empire of gold or steel. It was an empire of dreams. Ju-won and Olivia built schools for children across Africa and Asia, believing every young soul deserved a chance to rise. The walls of each school were painted in soft colors, and above every doorway were words Olivia had written. "Let kindness be your strength, and love your language." In Kenya, they opened a music and art academy where street children could express their hearts. Olivia spent months there each year, teaching young girls to believe in themselves. She would often sit with them under a mango tree, reading stories about courage and hope. In Seoul, Ju-won transformed one of his skyscrapers into the House of Peace, a free counseling center for people struggling with loneliness and mental pain, because he remembered what it felt like to smile in public but die inside. Every program they started was a reflection of their story, the pain they healed through each other, and the compassion they wanted the world to feel. But even as their influence grew, their hearts remained simple. They still woke early every morning on Jeju Island, holding hands as they walked along the seashore, barefoot in the sand. Ju-won would whisper, "You turned my world into a home," and Olivia would smile softly, replying, "And you turned my love into a legacy." They hosted charity dinners not in grand ballrooms, but in gardens filled with laughter and candles. Their guests often said they could feel the love between them in every glance, every small gesture. The way he brushed her hair behind her ear when she spoke, or the way her eyes glowed every time he smiled. One evening, Ju-won surprised her. He took her to a hidden hilltop on Jeju, overlooking the sea. The entire hill had been transformed into a breathtaking garden. Flowers from every continent bloomed there. Lilies from Korea, hibiscus from Kenya, orchids from Japan, roses from France. At the heart of the garden stood a marble fountain engraved with words that made Olivia's eyes fill with tears. "This garden grows from one kiss that heals a broken soul." He held her close, whispering in her ear, "When we're gone someday, this place will still bloom," reminding the world that love can begin in the most unexpected moments. Olivia turned to him, her eyes shimmering with emotion. "And every flower here will tell our story, not of power, but of hearts that chose each other." They kissed again under the twilight sky, the scent of flowers all around them, the sea whispering their names like a gentle lullaby. As the years went by, people began calling their love story the kiss that built hope. Couples visited their garden to renew their vows. Students in Africa sang songs about them. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the story, please leave a comment. Also like, share, and subscribe to my channel and click on the notification icon so that you will get notified whenever a new story is uploaded.